there, I'm Santina Plottner. I'm the Project Director for School-Based Mental Health Services here at OVEC, and we are excited to bring to you our new episode of SEL Within Today, which is where we try to show you where SEL fits in everything that you all do for your students and for your districts and your schools.
And my name is Molly Allen. I'm an SEL specialist here at OVEC, and we would like to take you on our journey just so that you are able to get some glimpses of how social emotional learning may work and fit into your journey.
So we are super excited for our guest today. Today is SEL Within Professional Meetings, and our guest is Jason Adkins. So we are very excited to interview him today.
All right, Jason, so can you talk a little bit about your position here at OVEC and maybe some things that your vision entails?
Yeah, I'm the Chief Executive Officer at OVEC. I just started that role on October 1st. I'm succeeding Dr. Leon Mooneyhan, who was our CEO for 18 years. I'm super excited about this opportunity. Before being CEO, I was the Director of Development at OVEC, so I oversaw grant writing and fundraising. I've done that my whole career. For 14 years, I've done development at OVEC and also at JCPS. I was in their grant writing department as well. And in my career, I raised $125 million in competitive grants and donations, and that's all been for educational causes. And I think of my vision for this work from my experience as a grant writer, as a fundraiser, that's really shaped who I am as a person, who I am as a professional. And as OVEC CEO, I think about my favorite grant that I've written. Now, when you've raised $125 million, that's a lot of federal grants with a lot of commas and a lot of zeros in them. But my favorite one is actually a $2,500 grant that I helped a teacher with. It was a teacher in JCPS at her school. She was the STEM lab teacher, and she wanted to start a robotics team. And it was a school with a lot of needs. It was over 90% free reduced lunch, about 30% ESL, and just a lot of different needs they had. But this teacher was a rock star teacher, and she really wanted to do this special thing for her students. So she wanted to start a robotics team and enter the VEX robotics competition, and needed money for some of the supplies and also the entry fees for her team. And so I helped her get a $2,500 grant, a foundation grant, and she and her students did something really incredible with it. So they went on to win the district championship, the state championship, and then they went to the world championship.
Wow.
Yeah,
what
and
an experience.
Yeah, it was so cool. And JCPS did this great video of that team, and it's just one of the things I'm most proud of from my career. It was a little grant, but it made a huge difference. And that affects my work here at OVEC, thinking about that experience of, we have lots of teachers like that teacher. Her name was Mrs. Armstrong. We have lots of Mrs. Armstrongs here in the OVEC region that are passionate about helping students. We have a lot of those type of educators here at OVEC in our professional learning programs and our Head Start program and iLead Academy. And I just think, what resources can I bring to them to help them be more effective in their work?
Yeah, what a great story. I love that. It's so uplifting. And like you said, you've raised a lot of money, but like the $2,500 grant was your favorite because of what happened with it and how many lives it impacted. Something that we talk about a lot when it comes to social emotional learning is that it's not just for students, but it's for adults as well. So kind of talk through how you align your vision of making work fulfilling and sustainable to support the adults, to support the educators and their work.
I think we all know what educators have been through the last few years. Yes. We've all been surviving a pandemic, and there's so many effects that has on us in our society, in our workforce. And with educators, I think we all know about workplace stress, burnout, turnover. There's just a lot of issues going on right now, and educators are feeling it. They've become frontline workers in this pandemic. And it's just a critical moment when a lot of educators have other opportunities. They're all sharp, they're hardworking. Some of them are starting their own businesses, starting nonprofits, going to nonprofits. And then we have fewer preparing educators than ever. The pipeline is really shrunk. So I think OVEC, our role has to be there with educator well-being. So my personal vision as CEO is to help make educators' work more fulfilling and sustainable. I think that's critical if we're going to keep people in this field and if we're going to have new people coming into it. So I use those words a lot, fulfilling and sustainable, with our team, and in a lot of presentations that I do. When I think about fulfilling work, I want educators to feel more effective in their work, for them to have really specific strategies they can use to tackle issues they're facing. And I think our professional learning programs do that. They really drive that sense of fulfillment. We have experts here on behavior, engagement, social emotional learning, special education, and their trainings are just top notch. Every time I go to a training that you all lead or others here at OVEC lead, I learn something and I'm like, more teachers and educators need to hear this and get this resource. And then sustainability, I want educators to feel that help is on the way.
Yeah.
I think it could be pretty discouraging if you feel overwhelmed and then you look around and you're like, who's coming to our school? Like, who wants to work here? So we're emphasizing with our member districts different programs that can help them feel supported. We're trying to be present in our districts more and more, boots on the ground, but then also get more people into the pipeline. So something we're doing this year is a program called First Time, Long Time, where we're providing resources to districts, some subawards, some funding they can use for tuition reimbursement and tuition support. So that actually could attract some new alt-cert, emergency cert candidates to their district and support them getting their college degree. And then we've got Zoom calls and other little sessions checking in with them, seeing what they need, how we can help. So we're going to try more and more of that, of helping educators that are already in the field, but let's get a few more in here too and see what we can do to help them.
Sure, yeah, we need them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then also, you talked about like the engagement piece of it, and I think so much of that kind of falls into social emotional learning. And how do you see SEL kind of fitting into professional meetings?
Well, since becoming CEO, my calendar is definitely filled up with more meetings. And that's probably my fault for calling a lot of meetings. And every month I have several really important meetings that kind of shape the rhythm of my month and how my work looks. One of those is our OVEC Board of Directors meeting. And that's my 15 bosses. They all come here for a meeting. So, and then I've got several others. We have an OVEC staff meeting every month, and then several project-specific meetings on some of our grant programs. And when you're leading those meetings, you know, you're thinking about what you have to accomplish, what you have to get done. There are different, you know, at the board meeting, there are things I need approved, and there's information I need to get out to our districts. At our staff meeting, I'm needing to share updates and upcoming initiatives. And then those grant meetings, you know, there's specific objectives we're trying to achieve. But the more and more I lead these meetings, I realize that for them to be productive and engaging, I have to think about what the attendees need. What are their needs coming into the meeting? And thinking about relevance. And that's really critical for, you know, our board meetings where you have 15 superintendents that are very busy, have a lot going on, making sure the meeting meets their needs as well. There's some things I need them to do, but how can I help them in their work? How can I make their work more fulfilling and sustainable? I think about that with our staff meetings and other things that I lead. Is what are even some of the emotional needs that staff might have, and what support they might need as well. So I'm trying to anticipate questions they're going to have about, you know, things I'm sharing. I'm thinking about support they need with different tasks. It's something I'll even ask toward the end of a meeting. And we've got several next steps here. Can I help you with them? What can I do to support you so people don't feel like they're on their own? And then I'm checking engagement throughout all these meetings. It's really clear when people are unengaged. Usually it involves their cell phone. You know, if there are a lot of phones up in their room, hopefully they're checking something I shared with them, but probably they're checking social media or email. It could be even a good productive task that they're getting distracted by. So I think there's a temptation for leaders to take that personally. You know, you all need to put your phones away, or putting a basket at the door and say, put your phones in here. And I think that's not a great idea. Like, you need to have a trust relationship with your teams and attendees at meetings. So I see it as a sign of this meeting needs more engagement or more relevance. Accepting it as feedback and really thinking critically, like, what could I do better to meet the needs of people in this meeting?
Right. And kind of like without even probably realizing it, you just named what the Castle's 3 signature practices are. So within that, they're the welcoming inclusion activities. kind of to where you're giving voice to everybody in the room. And then the second part are the engagement activities. We want people to be engaged in their work. And then at the end of it, the part that you talked about, hey, what help do you need with this task or whatever, that would be something that you could use for an optimistic closure. It's something about taking what you learned today and what are the next steps. Do you need support with that? Do you have a plan for that type thing? So the 3 signature practices are something that we can do with, like a teacher could use in their classroom, but also as adults we can use those practices when we're leading meetings. And I think that's pretty much what you named.
Yeah, honestly, I would say that optimistic closures are an area of growth for me with meetings. There's been some meetings, especially back in the fall, where I felt like at the end of the meeting we dumped a bunch of problems on the table, and it felt discouraging. And it was like, oh, I should have something here. Like there was kind of like a Santina and a Molly on my shoulders. There should be something at the end that's positive.
Yeah, or tie it together and like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
What are we going to do now?
And even as a teacher, that was the hardest part for me, is because of the time constraint. It was like, okay, we would finish something and have to move on to the next. And that was what I was like, man, I wish I would have been more intentional about spending time with the reflection or an optimistic closure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. You know, something that's weighed heavy on my mind throughout the pandemic, even prior to the pandemic, is just how are our leaders taking care of themselves? You know, there's been a lot on their plates, and even our teachers, just everyone, the adults, because we have a huge task of caring for the children. But I was wondering if you could talk for a minute about, as a leader, how do you model attending to your own needs, to things that you need so that you're an effective leader, and how you take care of yourself?
I really feel I've had no choice but to think about this. Just honestly, I'm in a season with increased stress, and I signed up for it, and no complaints there.
Right.
But I've really had to focus intentionally on stress management, and like what are healthy stress management techniques and what are unhealthy ones, and leaning into what's going to help me. So it's not exciting, but for me it's things like sleep and exercise and a decent diet, and then 1 or 2 little sparks of joy. It's been hard in the winter because I really love golf, and sometimes I just go into the driving range that's 5 minutes from here is a good little stress relief for me. So I'm really ready for that weather to change or for that to come back. But I'm even just mentioning that to others that work for me, that report to me, of them knowing some of the things I'm doing to manage my own stress. And so they have access to my calendar, and they're going to see things on there that are clearly stress management. And I want them to see that and feel the same freedom, that they need to control their schedule and they need to build in time to take care of themselves, and really set that as an expectation. And to be open and vulnerable with staff, those that I work with closely, but even all staff, of what I'm going through, and kind of being a model and an example there. Something I did back in the fall was I mentioned our employee assistance program that we have, where staff can call and get help with issues they're going through. So it's a counseling program. It's free. It's anonymous, so I don't get a report. I don't know who's using the service. And so I just shared that I've used this and I've benefited from it, and I know a lot of you might be going through things, and I just want you to be aware that it's available, and you should try it out. And I got a lot of feedback from people, even people asking, well, how do I do it? And that's great. I think we all need to do that. It's just you don't have to be invincible as a leader. You're a much more effective leader if you are vulnerable, and people see that you're struggling with things and you're getting help, and they need to get help too.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I want to do, is just set the pace.
Yes.
Yep.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I feel like in 22 years in education, I feel like the vulnerability piece is something that I've seen more and I appreciate, because a little bit of vulnerability goes a long way. Because like you said, like these last couple of years have been unprecedented times. It's been really difficult for a lot of people. But to be able to say, hey, I struggle too, this is something that works for me, maybe this could be something that would work for you. Yeah. All right, so now we want to kind of think about what are some things that schools could do right now to maybe think about having SEL be more present in, in the classroom, at the school level, in the community level?
Well, I would constantly emphasize educator well-being. I would work that into all parts of our operations to make sure that staff know they're appreciated, gestures that show them they're appreciated, but also bigger picture things that show that you want them to take care of themselves, you value them as a person. We set the tone really early here at OVEC, and we've even started doing this in our job interview process. So one of the questions we ask is about self-care. We'll ask, how do you rest, recharge, and relax? And I want detail on that question. I don't know if anyone watching this is ever going to apply for a job, but I might be giving away the secret here.
Yeah.
But if someone says, "Oh, I'm terrible at that. I just really I work a lot. I'm really driven in my work," that's a red flag to me.
Yeah.
They might get burned out in a position here, or they might burn others out. And so if they aren't consciously thinking about their own well-being, I'm not sure they're a good fit for our culture here. And I'd really encourage schools to kind of do that screening a little bit. Now, I know we're in a time with hiring where we all probably need all the help we can get.
Yeah.
But even if you ask the question and they don't have a good answer to it, it signals to them, this is what our workplace is like.
Yes.
We expect you to know your needs, to take care of yourself, and to use the resources we have here for you. So that's something I would do right away, is make it a part of our whole process that we emphasize educator well-being. Something else that I think would help in the future, we're trying it here at OVEC, and I think it's going to be a big part of our future, is just helping individuals understand themselves, their needs, and even their strengths. So we have started using Strengths Finder, also called Clifton Strengths or Gallup Strengths, but most people probably know it as Strengths Finder. We've used it with a couple different groups here at OVEC. It's an assessment you take, and it gives you your dispositional strengths. So it'll show you if you're a good learner, that might be one of your dispositional strengths, or if you're an achiever, if you're good at getting things done. I have new staff take that, especially staff that report to me, just to kind of learn more about them. I tell them if this isn't accurate, throw it away. It's low pressure.
Yeah.
But one thing I like to do with that is to pick out one of their strengths and show them how it's perfect for their job. So we've had some different fundraisers that worked at OVEC, and they had some strengths that were like perfect for fundraising.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a boost of confidence in a new job of like, oh look, I've got the strengths for this job. But then it helps you. I share my strengths assessment with others, and teams share it with their teammates. You can learn how to work together a little better, and know what drives other people, what drives you. It helps with conflict. Sometimes conflict in the workplace is because you have different strengths and different focuses. And so you might say, well, this person, they're deliberative, so they need time to make decisions, and this person's an achiever, so they want to get things done quickly. And so it's helping them understand that about each other can actually avoid some issues down the road. If you know your strengths and you're able to use them at work, you're more engaged and you're more likely to stay at that place of work. Your retention's better. And I think that would be really helpful right now in our education setting right now. If you've been through a time where your work's been discouraging, to realize, wait, I have strengths that are good for this work. That's an affirming situation that affirms you in your strengths. And then also to know I'm getting to use them in my work. Like, I'm meant for this job. This is a great outlet for me and my strengths and abilities. That could really, I think, revolutionize a lot of workplaces. And there's even some opportunities for students to do this. I know that same assessment, some school districts have done it with their students. Give them that boost of confidence as they're thinking about career readiness, that they've got significant strengths that would be an asset to any employer.
Yeah, and I know it was eye-opening for me after taking that. I'm like, oh, that's why I do this. Like, I couldn't figure out why I like to collect all the pieces of things and process through them. Is that a good use of my time, or should I just make a decision? But after taking the Strengths Finder, I found out, oh no, that's why I do that, because I'm constantly needing and gathering input on things to make informed decisions. So it's just a really cool tool And I love that you can use it with students too, because I think, when we get to a place when we can focus on people's strengths rather than deficits, that's when we really move forward.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh, this teacher, this is a growth area for her, we need to support her in this area, and giving support more for the deficit and not what her strengths are and building on those.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a different way of thinking through some things to help educators remain in the field and find this work fulfilling and sustainable, like we do here. So, well, we thank you so much for being our guest today. We've learned a lot. Make sure that you follow OVEC on Twitter so that you're up to date on professional learning opportunities. We have something that we tried out last month here at OVEC called, I have to look at the words, Retweet Retreat. So be on the lookout for that on our Twitter. Lots of great information was shared last month. You could even get on there and look at all the retweets of different ways to take care of yourself as an educator. And then also use our hashtag for our podcast, which is hashtag SEL Within. Thanks for joining us.